you, gentlemen, science has agreed that unless something is done and done quickly, man, as the dominant species of life on Earth, will be extinct within a year.
Direction of the President of the United States, stay in your homes. I repeat, stay in your homes. Your personal safety, the safety of the entire city, depends upon your full cooperation with the military authorities.
Yes, cities, nations, even civilization itself, threatened with annihilation, because in one moment of history-making violence, nature, mad, rampant, wrought its most awesome creation. For born in that swirling inferno of radioactive dust were things so horrible, so terrifying, so hideous. There is no word to describe them.
We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true, and there shall be destruction and darkness come upon creation, and the beast shall reign over the earth.
Yes, the earth, the skies above and the seas below, infested by swarms of nightmare creatures, crueler, deadlier than the armored giants of prehistoric eras. Here is a wild, headlong flight into terror as the desert erupts with the grim battle for survival. Here is a fear-frenzied moment of suspense as mankind totters before a thing that multiplies faster than it can be killed. Here is a desperate plunge into the black depths of the earth, where human courage challenges the brute force, the slashing jaws, the poison fangs that guard the subterranean nest where the beast spawns its terrible progeny.
To all units, condition red, drain 267 is the target area. Repeat, condition red, drain 267 is the target area.
Type of gas we could use?
No, we can't take a chance. It might poison the whole city.
Horror Hounds, welcome to the Black Sunday Tapes Classic Horror episode 20. We're continuing our dive into 1950s sci-fi horror. Today we're looking at one of my favourites, to be honest, of that era. It is 1954's Them. We'll get into my thoughts in a bit. Let's kick off with a little bit of your thoughts, sir. How did you take to this film?
Like, I'm really glad I saw it. I'm not mad that I bought it. Like, I'll probably watch it with a group of friends. I would totally try to invent a drinking game, get intoxicated, just chill with the homies, like just crack on it, like have a good time. But yeah. I don't know. I guess just because I had heard certain things from certain people, I had hoped it would be a little more than what I got. I guess it's kind of the best way to describe it, if that made sense.
Yeah, I definitely get. What is it that you heard beforehand? Was it from
how cool the ants were?
Right,
how genuinely creepy a few of the performances are, and I'll give you one. I'll give you one genuinely creepy, and it's the little girl.
Oh, yeah, man, she's incredible, and she's downright creepy. That 20-yard death stare at the start when you first come across. Oh wow.
Overall, my feelings were just kind of like super low budget, super full of exposition in a slow fashion to fill time. Although some of the exposition, okay, so if you've been listening for a little while, I was raised pretty conservatively, only PG till I was 13 type situation, and I watched a lot of nature stuff when I was a kid because that was what they were cool with. So I have kind of a lot of weird random knowledge. So I had seen lots of ant related things. So as I'm watching this stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is like fifth grade video that the teacher puts on because he doesn't want us to ask questions that day. Like, why are we watching this? But then again, I was like, well, when was this made? I mean, if you're sitting in this movie, maybe you hadn't actually seen that. Maybe you didn't even know that there was like 11 million different kinds of ants. You know?
Oh hell
so,
yeah! I doubt people.
Like, I was appreciative, but still, like, can we move on?
Yeah, yeah. And this is like this era of B-movie horror / sci-fi is all very much the atomic age. You know, the whole idea of this is the atomic age. It's the whole Godzilla thing, isn't it? It's the atom bomb that creates the monster, and there are plenty of these films. Them was one of the first American ones that really.
I'm sorry.
No, what was that?
I was mumbling that we should do Godzilla because I had a really awesome experience where I got to see the 60th anniversary restoration of
yeah, we'll definitely do
the night before 2014 opened.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do. Yeah, the 50s.
Both of those. But yeah, no. So I was saying, yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this is like just built into that. Now, my appreciation from this does come from the ants are they're awful right now. Right, like they are terrible right now. And back in the day, I can't imagine it was like hilarious. The most like cutting edge. Yeah, right. But to me, there's just something I love about the practical nature of it. The fact that they did build 100%. These like 20-foot, 25-foot ants. That it's just like there's some great behind the scenes footage, just like B-roll really from the film where you really see like the people that are controlling the ants, and it's just puppet work. It's just pure puppet work, and it's something that
you know what kind of nerd I am. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit if you want. Like, how many people did it take? Like, how big were they? How many puppeteers did it
take? Well, they only built 3 ants, from what I understand. They only built 3 of them.
I read they only built 3 of them. Okay.
Yeah, so they only built 3 of them, and that's why you only see 3 of them in a scene at any one time. And then it takes, I think it took like a good few people to puppeteer the whole thing, but they didn't get like too much motion out of them, as you can tell in the film. But there's something that's just very, very lovable with that for me. I'm just such a sucker for that old stuff. And then the acting isn't like great by any stretch of imagination, but I am a bit of a sucker for that B-movie acting as well. The little girl
can't work on me. I just didn't hear.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And it's definitely going to hit people like differently. Like, I know people that love this, I know people that hate this. I know like B movies in general. Like, just some people it just doesn't work, and there's no like right or wrong in that, right? It's that's just the way it lands. There's some stuff that just doesn't land with me. Like, people love it, and then I'm like, I just don't fucking get it. But that's just the way it is, man. It's all subjective. There's nothing wrong with that. But talking of the actors, I'm gonna on a little bit of a downer here, but I'm going to kind of dedicate this episode to Joan Weldon, who is the basically only female cast member in it. I mean, there's a few. There's the little girl and there's the nurses and stuff like that. But the main female protagonist for the whole film, the doctor, and she unfortunately passed away at the beginning of this month. So quite strange. We're not doing this episode because of that. It was quite strange.
It just happened.
It just happened because obviously we had our Universal Monster series. I knew we were ending with Creature, and then kind of because of that, we decided to go on this kind of like 50s sci-fi horror B movie thing, and then was one that I said to you bring up. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird that we would do this film literally a week or two after she passed away. So I just wanted to shout out because I think that she's not bad in this film, actually. And I do quite like her character as well. Her character is, especially for 1950s America, I think there's quite a good portrayal of the struggle she would go through. It can be like sexist dialogue in a way, like where they're saying to her, like, this isn't a woman's job and a woman shouldn't be in this position. But she's putting herself in that position. She's not having that. She's
running
like,
while in heels, falling down.
Exactly. She's like, I'm doing this. When they're going to go into the ant's lair and and they're trying to find the queen ant and stuff, and the guys are like, this isn't any place for you, and she's like, no, I'm coming. I'm doing it. And at the end of the film, when they're all in their army suits and they're all geared up, so is she.
Oh yeah.
Like, she is as well. And I really like that idea of I don't know how intentional it was from Gordon Douglas, the director, but I do like that idea. I do like the idea that he and with Joan Weldon kind of pushed that barrier a little bit and were kind of like, this is the position a woman is put in 1950s America, and unfortunately still is today in a lot of instances. Mm-hmm. But her character is pushing back and is like, no, I'm going to be as good as the boys in this one, I'm going to join the fight.
Definitely, yeah.
And then on the other thing I'll just shout out about the acting is the main police officer, the one we meet right at the start of the film that carries us all the way through the end, played by James Whitmore. Do you recognize James Whitmore?
Like he's got a face. I'm like, I think I know this guy, but I wasn't even trying to figure out what from.
He's the police officer that like gets out the car and runs after the little girl at the start, and then he's there right at the end.
Yeah, he was like, I know this face, but I wasn't even trying to Google it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it would make sense that you're kind of like, I kind of recognize his face, but I'm not sure where he'll be from. It's because he's probably his most recognizable role, aside from this, that like everyone knows him for, especially our generation, is he is Brooks from the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, please don't hate me here. Like, I've seen Shawshank.
Okay.
Once. I saw Shawshank
so Brooks
25 years.
Brooks is the old man that gets out of prison, but like can't.
Oh yeah.
So spoilers for if no one's seen it. Jump forward about a minute if you haven't seen Shawshank. But yeah, Brooks is the old man that gets out, and he spent his whole life in jail, so he commits suicide.
Yeah, I do remember this. Yes.
Yeah, so that's James Whitmore, the main police officer in this film, and he is like, again, like it is classic 50s B movie acting. But again, there is something I quite like about that in a way. Just because I'm a sucker for it, purely from a sucker for it. I know, like for you, it doesn't gel as well, and I totally get that. I can totally see that, man. But yeah, there's something that's quite endearing to me about 50s B movie acting. I don't really know.
Oh no, I get it.
But in terms of cast,
I absolutely love Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, unironically.
Oh yes.
I will fight people. That is a deliciously like saccharine, perfectly middle of the road meal. Like I will take it.
I'm with you. So in terms of, I've had my little say on the cast. In terms of the cast, like I said, I know 50s B movie acting doesn't gel with you as well as it does with me. But what did you think of? I tell you what, I really want to know. How did this cast? How did the ensemble compare to Thing from Another World? Because for me, my complaints about Thing from Another World is a bit like just kind of all bled into one. I feel like they've done something a little bit better.
Characters. Yes. Yeah, I was about to say, so absolutely, yeah, no, like where Thing from Another World was a cast of 12 people played by one person. You'll understand if you listen to our episode or you've seen the movie. This was a cast of 12 people. Like, you know what I mean? Like they absolutely were all individual. And while maybe everybody didn't feel necessary, nobody felt unnecessary like they did in Thing from Another World.
I agree. And they all stood out, right? And I tell you one thing that like we didn't really bring up in last week's episode about Thing from Another World that I really recognized in this is not only were the actors, not only do I think the ensemble was put together a little bit better, but the costumes. They were all kind of, apart from at the end when they're all in the army costumes, but kind of like you've got for me, you got your four main players in this, right? A little bit like Thing for Another World. I would argue you've got about 4 to 6 main players in that. But in this, for me, you got 4 main players. You got the police officer, you've got the 2 doctors, the father and the daughter team, and then you got the FBI agent. Now they're all set up very differently, and they all look very different. Like the doctor is a much older man. Then you've got they bring in his female daughter instead of having a son, which I feel like they could have done very easily. The police officer, for most scenes, is dressed very differently to the FBI agent. They've cast a bit of a height difference between them as well. So I just feel like the costumes and the casting, it just stood out a lot more. I just feel like
absolutely
very unique to that,
because
where
they lean into trying to help us understand that they are different.
There you go. Yes, definitely. Where obviously from Thing Another World, what didn't gel with me and you was it did feel like you just had 12 characters, 12 people in all the same costume. 12 gentlemen that looked very similar. And I feel like with this there was a little bit more to go on, really. But that did work for me, and I'm glad to hear it kind of worked for you. So what in this film did work for you? What in it, like, because you're a real film buff. You always take something from a film, even if you don't like a film, you always take something from it. So from this film, the film overall didn't gel with you particularly well, but I know you always find stuff you like. So what did you like about this film?
Really, really, really like the sound design, and there's some very interesting cinematography choices, and some shots that I feel were almost too on the nose to not be homage to what even at that time was probably considered classic cinema.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so the sound design, like I really appreciated they were like we have to invent something that's very loud and in your face, but nobody's gonna recognize. What are we gonna do? And you don't even know what the noise is. What is it for the first? I mean, definitely the first time you hear it. Like it just it swells and it goes. It's a 45-second sequence of just nothing but noise.
Yeah.
But am I wrong? Like the first one you get nothing. Is it the second or the third one? Kind of identify what it is.
Is it? Do you mean the ants when
Yeah, the sound of the ants. Correct.
Yeah.
So
you don't
like
really know what it is at the start.
Whoever came up with that, good kudos, good on you. I appreciated that.
Well, I like the way they've done it as well, because it's they use it in replacement of a score as well.
Yeah.
Basically, like I really like that idea. The idea that I think there is a little bit of a score underline it, but like that sound of the ants is almost like when you have a villain that comes on screen, or you do have a killer or something, there's normally like a bit of a musical motif that goes with that to signify a danger. I really like the way they use
the Wonder Woman theme.
Right. Yes, exactly right. So
that swell rocks.
Oh yeah, that's the best thing about the film. But the what they do with the sound of the ants, the cry of the ant, where they use that to signify the danger and their approach. I really like that. I really like the way they use that. Actually, that really works, man.
And so I've also been trying to, for the most part, watch most of these at least once on a good pair of headphones. And by a good pair of headphones, I mean they're not several $100s.
Of course.
But they do have the ability to do Dolby Atmos sound. So they are, on the higher end. I can listen to things usually in the highest available audio quality, and it's proper. And so, I really get to appreciate some more subtlety, and it's drowning out background, and this, that, and the other thing. And there are times where it's not quite a Doctor Sleep complete cut of sound, but like they play with levels on certain things, and I was like, oh, good on you, 1950s, because I didn't expect it, especially not out of a cheaper picture. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree, man. I completely agree. Touching on something I did want to speak to you about is touching on cinematography in a way. This is more to do with the release of the film, though. How did you watch the film? Purchase digitally, Blu-ray, DVD?
HD digital purchase.
HD digital purchase. What aspect ratio was your?
Filled my 16:9 television.
16
by 9. Actually, I don't know if it's 16 by 9.
Screen.
It's a widescreen television.
Yeah, it probably is 16 by 9. Yeah, so I brought for this episode, I went and purchased the premium format Blu-ray of the film, and it was full screen, absolutely full screen. And what threw me off about that is my DVD that I've had for years, and the first time I watched it, that was 4:3, so it's got the sides completely cut off, because that was the way it was released on video or TV, then video. And it wasn't until, I believe it wasn't until the Blu-rays and the HD digital transfers that they went back and scanned the full print that was the intended theatrical release, which is the full screen print. Yeah. So like for me, it was a completely different watch where I had like this whole picture to watch rather than just the 4x3 on my old DVD. Right. And I actually had to go back and check. I had to, like, after I watched the film, I got out my DVD and put my DVD in just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, it is. Yeah. The DVD's 4x3 and the Blu-ray's full screen. So yeah, that was quite cool. And the Blu-ray looks stunning. They've done an amazing job with, as I can imagine, your digital transfer is exactly the same.
It was quite nice.
Yeah, an amazing job, right? Absolutely amazing job. Yeah, but that I thought that was quite funny. And
so
then
along those lines, actually, because like the transfer was so pretty, there was on this rewatch, I was like, okay, this guy is being Ben Stein and telling us about ants. Okay, let's all right. But then there was this glorious moment where I kind of perked up. Why am I perking up? I don't understand what's happening. Something about what I'm looking at's making me perk up. And then I started to laugh because it reminded me of the framing of both the Shia LaBeouf watching himself in a marathon sort of upshot, but also like the Citizen Kane, like Kane watching, in a cinema upshot. It was very, very similar. Like the lighting of it, the smokiness of the scene, like all of
that scene you're referring to. You're referring to the scene where the doctors are explaining to Washington, right? Yeah. And the Army and the Air Force what's going on. Yeah. So that scene is widely regarded as the reason why in creature features and monster films, including every single Godzilla film, you have the scientist scene where they're really? Presenting a presentation to the army or stuff like that. Yeah, because they thought it was needed in this to like really explain the danger of the ants in this, but your creature. So that's a lot of people regard this is where it started, and that's why we now have that. Literally up until like the last Godzilla film, you had that, right? So yeah, I think that's quite funny that it either started here or was populated by this film. Yeah. Another technical aspect I just want to throw at you, which I'm sure you noticed, was the title card at the start.
The one bit of color?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that the whole film's black and white and you get the title in red, isn't it? And yeah, like that was. I remember when I first saw that like really threw me off. Did you just gloss over it, or did it like kind of?
Well, I took note, but I also, one of the bits of information that I recall having found, and unfortunately I can't cite because I lost that bit of notage. It was they intended to film it in color, but to save costs / be able to put more money towards ants, they were like, no, fuck it, black and white.
Yeah, so it was literally 2 weeks before filming.
Yeah,
2 weeks before filming, they cut the budget completely and were like, no, you've got to film this in black and white now. Yeah, and it was really strange because this film followed another film I want to do actually. They had success with creature features, right, in the 50s. So it was like a shock that.
Now, when you say they, who do you mean?
Warner Bros. The studio behind this. So
I was just curious.
They had success with creature features. So it was strange that they then cut the budget. This film went on to do relatively well. It was a bit of a hit for them. Obviously, we're talking about it now, so it's still around, right? It's still one that people talk about.
It's one that I'd always heard about, even like way back when I was a kid. It was like, that's one of one of them horror movies, right? Yeah, it's one of the first ones. They got giant ants. I'm like, yeah, I think I've seen pictures. They're like, yeah, it was really scary. I'm like, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But so I had always had a familiarity with it. I had just never actually seen it because it's not one of those that magically wound up in the public domain. And it was also one that for at least the times that I felt compelled to try to get my hands on it, it was not easily or cheaply acquirable.
Yeah, I should say that another reason why they think the budget may have changed on this is because Warner Bros. When this film was originally pitched, Warner Bros. Actually turned it down, and Paramount were going to pick it up. And then on that note, Warner Bros. were like, no, we'll do it. we have it.
Oh no,
just,
wait,
yeah.
we changed our mind. Somebody else wants it? No, it's ours.
Exactly, yeah, it's ours. And then it was like a week, 2 weeks or a week before shooting, they dropped the budget, and yeah, maybe they should have gone with Paramount and we would have had a color version. But actually, I quite like the black and white. I think especially like the desert stuff. I really like the desert stuff. And also the budget changed the ending of the film. It said that the original ending was meant to take place in New York City, but but they had to completely cut that. And also apparently, the ending, instead of taking place on the LA drainage tunnels, was meant to take place on the New York City subway, but the New York City mayor or someone, someone in power at the time really didn't like the idea of painting that picture for people using the subway.
There could possibly be monsters down there. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
exactly,
a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. So
whereas go ahead and tell the people that there's monsters in the LA aqueducts. They ain't supposed to be there.
Yeah, so they completely cut that and then set it all up in LA. But I think it works actually. I really liked it. I mean, you live right near it, right? But for me, I really like seeing the LA waterways and stuff. It just reminds me of the first film that always comes to mind is Grease. They're like storm drains, right?
Yeah.
But the
it's 100% what they are, because LA's land is physically ill-equipped to accept a certain amount of water that will drop out of the sky at times. So they had to build these crazy aqueduct things.
Yeah.
And see, whenever I see those, I always my first thought is Terminator 2.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. They've been in a ton of films, but like a ton of films have used them, and even films that are not set in LA sometimes set stuff. You'll see the odd scene within them and stuff, and it's like, well, that's definitely LA. You're trying to get away with something else there, but yeah, I love seeing that stuff. And I remember the first time I come to LA, obviously I'd seen them in a million films, and then the first time I see them, I'm like, oh shit, that's okay. I've seen shit film there. Yeah, and I mean for you're fucking used to that. You've seen it fucking forever, but yeah, for me it's always cool to see it. So I like seeing them in this film, and I liked this is probably, for me, from what I understand, I think this is one of the earliest times that they were used in film actually. So they might have turned up earlier on, but for me anyway, I think this is the earliest film I've seen. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I think so. Right, so we knew this one was gonna be a quick one, but is there anything you want to throw out before we end our trip down 1954's Them?
Oh, god damn it! All right, baby, fine. I'll bring up this child situation that you're so.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Okay, all right. So this thing that this thing that bugged my lady every time that she's seen it is near the beginning, or when they first stumble across the house that's all ransacked, which has one of my little favorite anachronisms. I believe I'm using that word properly. Where it was illegal to show American money on film up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And so every time you see money in movies up to a certain point, it's hilariously bad. It's worse than Monopoly money.
Yeah.
And so whenever I see, I'm like, but they find a note that says something about family being on vacation with 2 kids, and like we find one kid, and we find another set of kids later on, but they never mention the second kid from the first situation ever.
Yeah, very
so
true.
What's going on with that?
Well, I can imagine that kid met a very
exactly. That's why I said, like, when they find a pile of stuff, don't they find like some kids? At one point or something?
But I think that you were definitely fucking limited to what you could say about kids dying back then. So I think that's I've always implied it to be that, right? But yeah, just touching on that scene, I really love that set. I love the way they like just blow the wall out of the trailer, and the way it's just like completely clawed out. Yeah, that's really fucking cool, man. I really like that set.
We didn't really talk. We talked that it was kind of cool that they built giant ants, but a couple of those ants, a couple times they're used very effectively. Like their first reveal when it comes up and over the ridge. That's a pretty
cool.
all-time great shot.
That's a cool fucking shot. Yeah, man. That's a very, very cool shot. Yeah, like we said, like you brought up actually, like some of the cinematography is really nice. I really like some of the cinematography in this, and just the shot choices, like you said there. that shot choice is really good. I think a lot of the interior stuff they do where the ants have attacked.
Well,
I
you
think that's
you picked up the alien vibes, did you not?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, the egg room. I was like, oh, you son of a biscuit! How dare you? Like, just such clear homage.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, huge homage, huge homage. Yeah,
oh,
there's
and how many times did they use the Wilhelm? Like, I counted 4. Like,
oh, it's definitely it's heavily used in this film. Yeah, that's quite well known. I think that it's quite.
I enjoyed it, but I was like, whoa! Like, even if you don't know what it is, you might be like, didn't 4 people scream in the same fashion?
Yeah. So the last thing I'll end on, just because it's a quote from a director that I really like. So during an interview, he recalled when he was editing the film with his editor, and he asked the editor, "How does it look?" And the editor replied, "It looks fine." And the director asked, "Does it look honest?" And I think that's one thing that actually I do like about this film is like they actually take it quite seriously.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll give you that. That
Yeah,
was the thing
definitely.
I didn't put words to, but I kind of felt. I was like, I don't really.
Yeah,
Like I said, it didn't gel with me, but I was like, at least they're trying.
they're
They're
trying.
trying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. So the director asked his editor, "Does it look honest?" And the editor replied, "As honest as 12-foot ants can look." And I
that.
really like that because I think that the reason I want to end on that is I think that perfectly sums up my thoughts on it. Is like it is a very honest, quite a serious film. Like, what I really like about a lot of B movies and why I'm quite a sucker for a B movie is I'm a sucker for a B movie where they're like, this is the hand we've been dealt, and we are going to do the best fucking job we can with that hand. Right? We haven't got millions and millions. We haven't got this. Yeah, exactly. Right. So like I love that. That's why I'm a sucker for these kind of films, and that's why we'll be diving into a couple more. I'm excited to get your thoughts on where we're gonna go with this. But yeah, dude, we'll round it off there. Thank you for joining me once again. Thank you for everyone out there listening. And until next week, boys and girls, stay very, very safe.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.